Today, we're going to be putting in our cypress deck flooring. Hey, this is Jim, and I want to welcome you back to His Nature Farm. For this project, we have a deck, front and rear. This is the rear deck, and it sits over what we would call a finished space. We want it to be waterproof. So what we did was we laid down this leak barrier. It's sitting on top of a Vantec, which is a water-resistant 3/4 inch subfloor. It was designed and framed to pitch outward, so it goes from the house outward. This is a covered deck, so it's probably not going to get a lot of rain on it. But nevertheless, we still want to make sure it's waterproof. So we put down this barrier. This storm guard is basically has a sticky back. It's very, very adhesive, and we overlapped it quite a bit on this. Then we put down these furring strips. These are pressure treated furring strips. We siliconed them on both sides and then nailed them into the decking. Okay, obviously that's all dry and ready. Now we're putting on our deck. So what are we using for our deck? Well, what we are using here, we're using cypress. Now, why are we using cypress? Well, cypress is probably the most resistant to water and to bugs and stuff like that. The cypress grows in a swamp. Also, cypress doesn't have a lot of expression, meaning it doesn't have a lot of character. It's a little easier on the eyes when you're looking at a decking. You could use cedar. The problem with cedar is it's very expressive, has a lot of character, and it could make you dizzy, particularly if you put any sort of clear on it. It turns red. This is going to look a little bit more like a hardwood floor. Very good product. It's a tongue and groove product designed for the floor. And we're just going to place this down on top of our furring strips. Now I want to show you real quickly how we're going to do that. The first thing is we've got the right nails. These nails here are stainless steel. They do sell them. It is rather expensive. I think these are like 80 bucks. But they're stainless steel. Why are we using stainless steel? Well, it's going to get wet. You're going to have contact with a pretty moist board. And we don't want any, for one, you don't want any corrosion. And for two is you don't want any bleeding, meaning you have these things corroding and you got it bleeding through, and it's making marks on your nice, expensive deck. So these are standard. They fit in a standard flooring nailer, just like you do on the inside of your home. And we're gonna nail these just like you do a typical floor. We're gonna line up with the furring strip. We're gonna place it on here, and we're gonna hit it with the hammer, and it's gonna drive that nail. Now, when we do this, obviously, when you put the first course on, and we're going to kind of talk through it rather than show you do it, because it's kind of hard to do it while we're doing it. You obviously can't fit this typically because it's going to hit. So typically the first course or two, we're going to surface nail it with a finish nail. We're going to do two in each one. Okay, so that's how we're going to fasten it to the floor. The next thing is I want to show you how we're going to finish this end. You can't have this sitting here because it bends. It's got to end on a furring strip. I'm sure you all know that. But with that, you got to kind of mark everything out and make sure that it's lining up. And of course, you want to stagger the joints. But also at the end here, which is probably a little more pretty important, I think. Let me show you here. At the end here, we have obviously this drop off. We're going to have a railing here that goes across. But we want to make it look nice. We want to have a nice finished edge. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. One is we could have doubled this furring strip up, and we could have turned this board sideways. And then we could have butted into the end and made a nice finish edge. You can do that. However, it's sitting under a railing. You're probably not going to see it really well. Probably more a waste of time. If this was a house inside, I probably would have done that. If there was some sort of a balcony or something like that, definitely on a balcony, maybe overlooking a second floor, I would have done that. On this one, I'm not. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just do a 90-degree cut on every end. Obviously, with these factory cuts are not 90 degrees sometimes, and they're kind of frayed. We're gonna cut this on our saw, and then we're gonna line it up perfectly with the end of this right here. Honestly, when we're putting it in and we're lining up with the edge, so as we're putting in each board, we're going to line it up with this. And that down there at that end, at that seam, can vary a little. It doesn't really matter. We want to make sure that this is perfectly even. And at the very, very end, when we're done, we'll take a sander or a hand and we'll just hand sand it just the end, to make it just maybe a little bit of a round over. But that's it. Typically, we're going to try to work from this end this way. Typically, what you would do is you would go back and forth. You'd work, you get to the end, you work back this way, you work back that way. But because we want this end to be perfectly even, what we want to do is we want to start here on every row. Make sure that end is perfect. And then if we have a little bit of a difference, we can measure it in and cut a piece to fit perfectly. So we're going to get the kids. The kids are going to do this, the young people. I hate to call them kids, they're not really kids. The teenagers are going to do it as they did with the floor inside, which is awesome. They do great work, and they're really getting a good skill. And I'm kind of overseeing, helping them go along, and we'll see what they do. So let's take a look. I just wanted to show you the completed product. This is the completed, mostly completed. You got a little bit of edging out there to do, but this is the floor that they've completed. Here it is. They did a good job on this. It is not quite as tight and finished as, let's say, a pine floor it's going to be. It's got a little bit more character to it. It's got a couple of more twists, and it was a little twisted here and there. It's a very light wood. It's not very dense either. Now what we're going to do here after this, just to let you know, is we're going to come in here. I'm going to use a floor sander, sand this all down. Then we're either going to stain it or paint it. I think this is going to be stained, so it should look great. Again, the reason why we use cypress, the main reason, is that ultimately when you use cypress, it is resistant to rot. That's the main reason. But I want to show you the finished product. They did a great job, and I'm so happy that they did this. I'm glad we used this product. And anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us at His Nature Farm. Remember to please like and subscribe, and of course, as always, your comments are welcome. Thanks, and have a blessed day.